And also it was when he was first elected. That was one of the first. Oh, right. You're so interesting. No, and but I did get my far. Yeah, well, we're standing outside the Unite conference to give Starmer the welcome he deserves. We object to him being invited to speak at the United conference, considering he's doesn't like trade unions, and we've been told to treat him with respect. Well, until he treats us with respect, why should we? Many people, some of the delegates, have been told that they're not to do anything. Some of them, having been leafleting for 2 days, have said to me they're frightened of being suspended. So why should Starmer's, the fear, why should that be in Unite?
So what, suspended from Unite?
Yeah, they're they haven't said that, but they're frightened of being suspended. That's what I've been told by delegates. Yeah. Unfortunately, but I do think there are Unite members in there who will make their feelings known. There are delegates who will make their feelings known.
Are you a Labour Party member?
I was I was expelled when he first became leader. Becky and I were suspended on the same day. Becky Massey and I were suspended on the same day. And then I was obviously expelled.
What grounds were you expelled on?
The usual false allegations of anti-Semitism, So having been an anti-racist, and also because I belong to the local Palestinian solidarity campaign, I was a target, in my branch, in my CLP. Didn't come as a surprise. And as I say, Starmer, just wouldn't give him. I'm really angry that he's going to be coming here, actually. Angry. So, he's a coward. I doubt it very much. He may go through from the hotel, he may go through the back, but there's no way he'd go in the front. He's a coward. He's not a people person. He's not interested in people, and especially the working class and people living in poverty, and it's big business. And absolutely, rather than building council houses. So, and also we've now got missions in place of policies. Missions, what does that mean? you know, gives him an outlet to change his mind again.
The dark forces behind him, Mandelson and
Blair.
Campbell and Blair. They've been saying to him, you are a appeal to Middle England.
Exactly, no.
Or you never achieve power.
No, and it's not all about power. That's all they're interested in, is getting into power. You know, people matter, society matters. And you don't hear anything from him about having a society for everyone. And no.
The danger is if he gets in, he's going to sort of do damage to the
Absolutely. Absolutely. Exactly. And I'm afraid, you know, there's not going to be any change. No change. And people who think, oh, I'd rather have the Labour Party than the Tory Party are kidding themselves. They say, just let's get the Labour Party in. No, not this one. Not this one. You know. And when I think of
the onslaught against Corbyn,
oh, shocking.
like 3 years.
Shocking. And, you know, the Labour Council we've got now, but the Labour people here locally against the left, we were treated so badly. And if they want, you know, if that's all they want to do is get in by whatever means, fair means or foul, well, I don't want to be part of that. You know, you get in by being fair.
Palestinian solidarity.
What's going on today, Paddy?
Well, we're protesting against Keir Starmer being invited here. I mean, it came as a last-minute decision, and you know, we are so upset at the fact that he has reneged on all the promises, all the lies that he told in order to become leader, and now he's just like Tory. I mean, what he's proposing is nothing other than keep on going. He's talking he's going to have the same Tory spending policy as the outgoing, and they are outgoing, the outgoing Conservative Party. And we're also angry at Unite, at the way in which they have tried to suppress the film, which I have a small part in, of Jeremy Corbyn, The Big Lie, which exposes the anti-Semitism scam that was in the Labour Party. Yep.
So what have they done? What have Unite done regarding the film?
Well, apparently they've told premises that they're not to show it, although we've got some evidence that some Unite premises are actually showing it, because Asa Stanley, who has just published a brilliant book on the anti-Semitism and the way in which the Israel lobby connived in the downfall of Corbyn, that they are showing it in some Unite premises. But it was planned to be shown last week in Lewis, in a pub in Lewis, and they came under pressure and they pulled it. You know, it's disgraceful. I mean, it's just
It's about 20 cancellations already.
Yeah, I know. They've just got to keep going, because we've got to keep the publicity up. I mean, it was to be shown at Glastonbury, and you imagine when he was there in 2017, everybody was cheering for Glastonbury. So I put it out on Facebook. You know, who has changed? Corbyn hasn't changed. Has Glastonbury changed? That suddenly it's not acceptable. You know, appalling.
You know, the thing is, the campaign against anti-Semitism and the Jewish Board of Deputies got onto all the sponsors of Glastonbury,
Yep.
Vodafone and all these kind of
Yes,
people,
yes,
and told them to pressurise
yes,
like leaders.
yes,
Cancel it.
yes. I know. Well, is it commercial pressure then? Is that all it is? You know, because the spirit of Glastonbury was embodied in what Corbyn stands for, and what he still stands for, and what the British people want. I mean, we've got between 60 and 80% of people want public ownership of all our utilities. They want the National Health Service to be nationalised, and they want pay restrictions, and they want not pay restrictions. They want fair pay, and they want restrictions on mortgages increases, on fuel prices, and all of these things. They want socialism, but we haven't got anybody who is standing for it. The Labour Party certainly isn't. So that's one of the reasons we're here.
But the onslaught against Corbynism.
Sorry, the onslaught
The
against.
onslaught
Yeah,
against Corbynism
Yeah,
for
yeah.
those 3 years
Yeah.
between 2015
yeah,
and 2019 was
yeah.
scary.
And Starmer has carried it on
What does
within
it
the
mean-
Labour
what
Party.
does what does that mean for democracy?
Well, it means there is no democracy in the Labour Party anymore. Starmer is not a Democrat by any definition. He is a man with an autocratic turn of mind who believes that any opposition to him. Look, I was suspended first under Corbyn and reinstated, suspended then under Starmer and not reinstated, but they didn't pursue it because I threatened that if there was any suggestion of racism of any sort on my part, that I would sue them. And eventually I was expelled, auto-expulsion, because I attended a Zoom meeting at an organisation that had been proscribed. But I attended it 6 weeks before the organisation was proscribed. So what was that? Guilty of not having clairvoyancy capacity.
Is that Labour in exile?
No, it was LLA, Labour Alliance. Well, of the 4 organisations that were banned, I was prescribed. I was a member of 3, and possibly a founding member of at least 1 or 2 of them. So that's what's been. That's the way it is. And in the end, I mean, they did complain about anti-Semitism to me, and I saw the official who complained, and I threatened him with defamation of character unless they withdrew it. Him personally and the organisation of the Labour Party collectively. The following day they withdrew it and they said it was a mistake. I said that's not enough. If by mistake you mean it was just a slip of the pen, this was no mistake. If by mistake you mean there was absolutely no foundation in truth for it, no evidence whatever, and that it was completely untrue, then I will accept your apology and not sue you. And that's what Starmer should have done. It's what Corbyn could have done. He could have been tougher on these people, because what was going on is bullying, and what Starmer is now doing is continuing that bullying.
Corbyn took somebody to court for accusing him of anti-Semitism.
Yes.
And they embroiled him in this kind of lawfare.
Yeah.
Where nobody won.
Yeah.
But he ended up with half.
Huge costs. I know.
And they know how to do this.
Yeah. I know it is very dangerous to threaten court action at all, but these people caved in straight away with me because they're cowards. I mean, bullies are by definition cowards, and they need to be stood up to. I mean, they are now smearing Ken Loach, who I appeared with on stage, and he was auto-excluded the same time as me on exactly the same basis that he had attended a proscribed meeting of an organisation which hadn't been proscribed at the time. And now they're smearing him as an anti-Semite because of what Reeves said, the Shadow Chancellor, on television. It is disgraceful, and I hope that the likes of Ken Loach and others do, sue, because it's disgusting what is being done.
The mayor, the northeastern mayor, Jamie Driscoll.
Yes.
Is stopping him from standing again, even though he's very effective,
Yes.
very popular.
Yes.
On the basis he was on a platform with Ken Loach.
And that's all he was.
He wasn't even talking about politics.
No, it was about movies, films. It's film, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it is guilt by association. It is absolutely disgraceful. It is McCarthyism. It's Sir Keir McCarthyite Starmer. That's his name.
It's entered Unite now because somebody was telling me
Yeah.
that anybody that raises a Palestinian flag or placard or anything today is threatened with expulsion from the bloody union.
That's disgraceful. I mean, that is really. That's Orwellian what we've got now, and that's what is happening in the Labour Party. I mean, I know so many people who voted for Starmer, despite my advice not to, have since left the party in disgust at what's gone on. There is no freedom of speech in the Labour Party. And my message would be to the people of England, to the people of the United Kingdom, if you knew how Starmer treated the members of his own party, and if he ever got in power in this country, that's how he would treat the rest of the population. That's the mentality that he has. He's a dangerous man. And I don't mind if he sues.
He's always been authoritarian.
Absolutely, yeah.
He was urging the Swedish government to pursue Julian Assange.
Yes.
He opened the courts 24 hours a day during the street disturbances.
Yeah,
in 2011.
and increase the level of the sentencing as well. Encourage that.
So
Yeah.
there was one guy,
Yeah.
23-year-old, who
Yeah.
got, I think he got 6 months for taking a bottle of water.
But, yeah. Yeah. No.
And he opened the course 24 hours a day
Yeah.
so he could process
Yeah. Yeah.
young black kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Nasty piece of work.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't get his knighthood for his civil liberties lawyering. He got his knighthood for his work for the state as director of prosecution, and particularly in Northern Ireland. You know, he's not one of us. He's one of them. Is that just a good joke, or are you actually doing something?
Let alone even start to respect before you talk when meaning that scarf on your neck. Forget Nestle, Obama, promise Israel. Boys are throwing stones at tanks, and we'll never really.
Testing.
Okay.
Hello, testing. I'm Anne.
So what's happening here today?
This is a demonstration against probably one of the most racist Labour Party leaders we've ever had the misfortune to have. And somebody who clearly is proud to be a racist. So when he said, Keir Starmer, I'm a Zionist without qualification, he has no hesitation in supporting a state that bombs innocent women, children, civilians, that devastates a refugee camp in Jenin and Nablus, and that has consistently violated international law for the last 70 years. This is the new leader of the Labour Party, and this is the person who gets his MPs to abstain against the legislation, the anti-boycott legislation, to abstain against the police bill, who clearly has no commitment whatsoever or any class consciousness, who instructs MPs not to join picket lines. There's very little that anyone can say which is worthy of a leader of the Labour Party. And while Corbyn may have made mistakes, may have not been strong enough, should have fought more, should have defended members more, there's no doubt that what we have ahead of us is going to be a position which makes no difference to anyone if Labour win the next election. And as a Palestine solidarity activist, I'm actually really frightened about what may happen when Keir Starmer becomes the official Prime Minister of this country.
So the kind of McCarthyism that's going on inside the party has now entered Unite.
Yes.
The sense that people have been told that if they raise banners, Palestine flags or placards,
Yeah.
they're threatened with expulsion.
Yeah. Well, I'm a member of Unite, and I was absolutely shocked that Keir Starmer was invited as a so-called solidarity speaker. Now, Unite might have a tradition of welcoming the Labour leader to conference, but at some point Unite the Union is going to have to decide if it's going to fight for its members, and that actually means challenging a Labour leader that clearly is not going to stand up for the needs and interests of Unite or any other trade unionists. So why that happened, you know, is beyond me. And for members to be instructed to treat Keir Starmer respectfully when he's shown nothing but contempt for Unite members is frankly appalling. Unite members have every right to express their feelings, whether in conference or elsewhere. And not only have every right, they have a responsibility to do that. The witch hunt that has gone on in the Labour Party has meant that so many good socialist comrades are no longer members. And they're no longer members either because they've criticised the apartheid state of Israel, or because they've supported or ticked a like for a so-called prescribed group. And those prescribed groups are groups that represent the interests of the working class in this country, of the interests of trade unionists in this country, and of the interests of everyone that believes in free speech in this country and the right to express political views.
The kind of dark forces behind Starmer, like Mandelson and Blair and
I think
Alistair Campbell have told him that the only way he's going to get into power, given the media in this country, is by appealing to the middle ground and the middle class.
But getting into power is one thing. I mean, doing something when you're in power is another. And there's no indication whatsoever that the Labour Party under Keir Starmer is going to do anything for the people most in need, of change in this country. And people are now starting to talk about the collapse of the NHS. They're starting to talk about the collapse of infrastructure. They're starting to talk about now the high cost of energy. Why weren't they supporting Corbyn when they had an opportunity to do something about it? You know, that didn't happen, and it's too late now, and they should have really learned, from history and refused to do so. And we all know, and I hesitate to say this, because if I wasn't already expelled from the Labour Party, this would get me expelled from the Labour Party. The lobby groups, not just Israel, but big business, corporate interests, are clearly taking hold of the Labour Party, and it's they who will determine what the Labour Party stands for, not its members anymore. The Labour Party has run roughshod over the membership. It's imposing candidates in local elections. It's not allowing any democracy to flourish. And you have to ask yourself, is it worth even continuing to be a member of a party that behaves in that way?
Well, we've got a demonstration against Keir Starmer coming to visit and speak to the Unite conference. And he's not welcome. Because he doesn't really have anything to say, does he? His whole record has been selling out workers' strikes, not supporting them. He's a neoliberal, and he also doesn't tell the truth.
I mean, the McCarthyism in the Labour Party is extending to here now. Apparently people have been told if they raise placards or flags inside the conference hall, they can be expelled.
Yeah, that's right, yes. I mean, the trade union leadership, and Sharon Graham in particular, are getting into bed with Starmer. They're doing what he wants and tempering workers' struggles in order that they can get their feet under the table. It's kind of begging the bosses for crumbs off that table. And Unite now is policing its own members on behalf of Starmer and the Labour Party. I mean, that's why they've banned the showing of the film Jeremy Corbyn, The Big Lie, on Unite premises. The pretext is union resources, but we know what the real reason is, of course. It's because it might offend the leader of the Labour Party and those around him. So we see the trade union bureaucracy really marching hand in hand with the leaders of the Labour Party, who are vehemently opposed to any workers' struggle to increase their own standard of living. That's the reality of it.
He's always been an authoritarian,
Starmer, yes, it's ironical. He is the human rights lawyer who supports torture, the imprisonment of Assange, and all the other human rights abuses we've seen under his leadership, support for the Spy Cops Bill, the Public Order Act, and all the rest of it. And yet, of course, as I say, he is supposed to be a human rights lawyer. Work that out for yourself.
When it was DPP, when the civil disturbances happened in 2011.
That's right.
He opened the courts 24 hours a day to process all these young black guys.
Well, that's right, yes. Keir Starmer, as DPP, had an appalling record on civil liberties, as you say. 24-hour courts where you were hauled in front of magistrates and sent to prison without so much as a word. Julian Assange, where he connived and plotted to ensure that someone who revealed human rights crimes, war crimes, was themselves imprisoned. And they've destroyed the files so you can't read about it. So that is the nature of Keir Starmer. He is a natural-born liar. He had 10 pledges he stood for the leadership of the Labour Party on. Every single one has been broken. And now Jenny Chapman says he never meant them anyway. He was only saying it to get elected, so what can you do? And that is the person that Sharon Graham and the Unite leadership think is a fit person to provide a solidarity speech at the Unite conference. So work that one out.
He's supposed to come here now at 2 o'clock.
Yes. Well, we will give him a warm reception. We will tell him what we think of him. But I suspect he might come in by the back door because he's not a man known for his bravery either. But we'll see.
And people and delegates have been told to be on their best behaviour.
Absolutely, because you mustn't behave badly in front of the boss, if you see what I mean. You have to do what you're told. Sharon Graham came into the leadership of Unite saying she represented the membership. Now she's telling the membership, if you don't behave, you'll be out on your ear.
She said she got in and she was just going to pursue purely industrial struggles. She wasn't interested in politics.
Well, she told us that she wasn't interested in politics, but what she meant, I think, was she wasn't interested in socialist politics, because we've seen under Sharon Graham nepotism, her husband employed in her office, all the rest of it, the victimisation of Brendan Ogle in Ireland, the leader of Unite there. So it's a pretty appalling record that we've got. And now we've got the banning of Corbyn the Big Lie, which really means they don't want to go into looking at what happened under Jeremy Corbyn, the first socialist leader of the Labour Party, and how the right got rid of him. They don't want the members to know, but they won't even say that openly. They pretend it's about spending union resources, so they can't tell the truth either about that.
They don't want discussion in the movement.
Absolutely, because discussion and debate and democracy threatens the position of union leaders who are, of course, very well off compared to their members, given the perks and the privileges that they have. And that's always been the problem. We have had this year workers' struggles which have been sold out consistently by union leaderships who find them inconvenient, whether it's the CWU or the nurses or other strikes. With the exception of the RMT, you've seen a consistent pattern. Starmer has refused to support them, and the union leaderships have rushed to adopt his position. It's a disgrace, but of course that's what they do historically. We know that from the general strike and onwards. Union leaders like to see themselves as the policemen of their own members, not the representatives.
Do you think the Labour Party's ever been socialist?
Do I think the Labour Party's ever been socialist? No, but as Tony Benn said, it has socialists in it. And that's why, historically, socialists have worked in it. But today, Starmer is doing his best to expel not only socialists, but even centrists. Even people who've gone along with Blair are now in danger if they don't sing from the same songbook. So I think today socialists really are finding it impossible to work in the Labour Party. I mean, I was expelled, unfortunately, under Corbyn with the anti-Semitism nonsense. And it's unfortunate that Jeremy Corbyn went along with it and continually apologised, because when you apologise to your enemy, you only give them strength. And that's the lesson we learn. You stand up to your enemies, you don't apologise to them.
Starmer said he's going to transform the Labour Party forever, fundamentally.
Well, that has always been the aim of the ruling class of this country, to have a Labour Party which is like the Democrats in the United States. Two parties of the same capitalist class. So whoever gets into power, nothing will change. And that is Starmer's aim. Whether he succeeds, we'll have to see. But he's certainly on the way to do that, because he's purged every socialist you can see, not just socialists, but also centrist, people like Jamie Driscoll, for example, the mayor of North Tyne, because he's spoken out of turn. The right wing in the Labour Party and the right wing in the trade union movement do not believe in democracy, and that's the main thing. And they therefore fear any debate because it threatens their position. And the goal, certainly, of Starmer is to make Labour safe for capitalism, Labour safe for those who pay starvation wages, safe for the neoliberals who'll take into private hands anything they can which is public. So that is the message, I think, that we want to go out.
If the Tories get back in later on, they can all get jobs in companies and...
Absolutely.
You know, like
yes.
that guy, Milburn. Remember, he became a billionaire. And
yeah, well, Stephen Byrne. There was a whole series of them under Blair, like Milburn, Stephen Byrne and others, who, as you say, got jobs, in the case of Alan Milburn, with the private health sector. So no wonder they don't really support things like the National Health Service, because, like Wes Streeting, they want to privatise it or increase the...
Was it Ruth Kelly?
Yes, yeah.
Employed
Yeah.
to sell the privatised water companies.
That's right, yes. Yeah, I mean, there is no difference in principle between the right-wing neoliberals in the Labour Party and their equivalent in the Tory Party. Their main enemy is on the left, which is why under Corbyn, the right wing of the Labour Party did their best to defeat the Labour Party in the general election in 2017 and 2019. What they fear most of all is a threat to the privilege and position of those in power. And that's why, in practice, you see them hobnobbing and mixing together. So we had Yvette Cooper and Ed Balls at the wedding of George Osborne, because really they get on very well together behind the scenes. What they say in Parliament is just posturing. But we know at the end of the day, they stand for the same rotten capitalist system that hives off wealth to the rich and impoverishes the poor.
And then Starmer, right?
Is that...
Starmer, when he was younger, spoke repeatedly out against the monarchy.
Yeah.
Saying it should be abolished. And then he has the Labour Party conference singing a bloody...
Well, that's right.
anthem.
They all have their youthful rebellions. I mean, Liz Truss spoke out against the monarchy as well. But we know how that turned out. So it's no surprise, really, that Starmer is the same. I mean, Starmer was radical in his youth. But when he, if you like, became older, he became a faithful servant to the British ruling class, saluting the flag and getting the working class to be patriotic, which means really to support their own bosses. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Ramsay MacDonald, but only quicker.
Much quicker, much quicker. MacDonald took a long time from the beginning of the First World War until he sold out. Starmer has done it in a matter of weeks, really. He got elected on a Corbynite programme and he immediately junked it without so much as an apology.